here. Open at 7:02. First item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes from February 12th. Haven't had a chance to review those, so we will table those until our next meeting. We have two public hearings, both of which have been requested to continue. The first being the Government Boulevard Extension subdivision. So, could I have a motion to continue, please? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on the motion to continue. Sorry, Regina.
Yes.
Kendra.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Frank, yes. So 5-0 on the request to continue. 357 Sterling Road, that's also part of the request to continue.
Yeah.
Which is March 18th, which meeting time, which is March 25th. Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Kendra?
Yes.
Regina?
Yes.
Frank, yes. So 5-0 to approve the request for continuance to March 25th. We now go to the public meeting with the team from 2038 Lunenburg Road to review the road construction, open space, homeowners association documents, and other fun things. So, Peter, why don't you take it away?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So what we're hoping.
We all know you.
Oh, sorry. Peter Cantabasso, represent Harbor Classic Homes, attorney with the office at 3 Park Street in Leominster, Mass. Thank you. What I'm hoping we can do tonight is try to cover a few different topics to get our bearings, specifically on how the planning board wants us to proceed, because I think we're getting close to possibly trying to apply for building permits. And there are certain things in the special permit that we want to make sure we can clarify with the board going forward. But just as an update, the roadway work was commenced this past fall. We were trying to get the road work completed. Unfortunately, we were not able to complete as much as we thought. There was a recent incident in December with the detention basin spilling some silt water into the wetland area down into the. We did appear before the Conservation Commission, I think 2 weeks ago. There is an enforcement order that the area that was damaged be replicated. So the understanding we have with the Conservation Commission is we're in the process of retaining a wetland scientist who's going to come up with a replication plan. And that replication plan will be submitted to the Conservation Commission probably within the next 2 to 3 months. As long as no further work is done in the buffer area, because an order of conditions has not been issued by the Conservation Commission. There was a filing issue with the original notice of intent. DEP has yet to assign a DEP number and give their technical advisory comments to the Conservation Commission. So we're still kind of on a holding pattern with that. But as far as the roadway is concerned, we feel that it's important that they are able to complete the roadway. I brought the inspectional chart that I can share, because there's really just a few steps left. And once those final steps get completed, then the stormwater management system will essentially be in place and working 100% instead of working 60 or 65%, what have you. So as far as the approval, when the iPod special permit was issued, the planning board and the applicant, did not enter into some type of a performance bond to ensure that the roadway, utility work was done pursuant to town standards. I did prepare, and what we're proposing is that, the Form F covenant be approved so that it can be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. That's one of the, Mass General laws gives the planning board three, options as far as bonding is concerned. A covenant with the town that no lots will be conveyed or built upon until the roadways are completed is the Form F. A second alternative would be to post a performance bond. And a third alternative would be to enter into what they call a tripartite agreement with the town, the applicant, and a lender who's giving construction money to build the roadway. At this stage, the work that has been done, to date, as far as the roadway construction is concerned, the subgrade, roadway was done, installation of the preliminary installations of the drains and the catch basins, the cable utilities, the subgrade final plane for the roadway. And they started the gravel base. They did not complete the gravel base. So those steps have been done. What's remaining is to complete the gravel base, put the base coat paving down, and install the curbing. Once that's done, all the catch basins will be brought up to grade. All the berms will be in place so that the water will be directed into the catch basins and go where it's supposed to go. So we feel that the board is inclined in the Form F that we forwarded is approved. I understand that the inspectional, comprehensive environmental has been retained to do the road inspections for the town. We've arranged with Mr. Keating that if we can go forward with the bond and continue with the roadway work, then we can arrange for the inspections to be done so that this stuff can be verified and the remaining work can be complete.
Just a quick question. So you're saying if you complete what you need to do, there's gonna be less of a chance of what happened already happening again?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly, because depending on the nature of the rain event, the water is kind of going path of least resistance.
I understand. I just wanted to like clarify that. It makes sense to me that you get this, the proper protection when the system's complete, and now every portion of that project is gonna do its job.
And what we've also done with the Conservation Commission, we did take some steps to some additional stabilization steps at the site, where one of the drain pipes was capped. A temporary drain across the street away from the buffer zone was reconnected so that the water that's coming from the top running down, instead of it going into the drain and flowing into the buffer,
Right.
it's going to go into the temporary drain away from the roadway. So we feel that at least temporarily that stuff should, minimize and eliminate any type of further risk of silt
Right.
running from the detention basin.
Right.
And the big problem that really exists at the site, unfortunately, is the detention basin just hasn't had it hasn't been completed in a proper growing season for the grass to grow and for it to really stabilize.
Right.
So that if water is getting in there, there's silt that's gonna be running out.
It happens. I understand. I mean, it's without completion, it can't do what it's designed to do.
Correct. So that's what we, are hoping we can accomplish as far as the road is concerned. And
Let me just, a quick pause. Are you guys here for 357 Sterling Road?
Yes.
So that was continued until March 25th.
Okay. I see there's an agenda for April 8th. Is there an intention to talk on that on the 8th as well?
I'm not familiar, I'm not sure where you're referring to.
Sorry, on your agenda, it lists a meeting April 8th.
Oh, it is April 8th, but I don't, so we continued them to March 25th. Whether or not we also address it on April 8th, depends on what happens on the 25th.
Okay,
So they're gonna come back, we're gonna go through peer reviews and the like. There may be, another multiple week period for another round of peer reviews.
okay.
So,
And have any new drawings been submitted since the December ones?
Not yet.
That's what they.
That's what we're waiting for.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I mean, y'all are still welcome to hang out with us.
I mean,
We actually need to go work on it.
this is mile a minute
It's coming
excitement.
along nicely.
And you guys, maybe you'd wanna run for the planning board at some future year. You wanna find out how it's done.
I volunteered for it, thank you.
All right, great, well, I saw you sitting patiently and.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, thanks. Okay, Peter, sorry for interrupting you.
That's quite all so the intent would be, weather permitting, based on my discussions with Ron, probably mid-March, end of March, go with the rest of the work so that anticipating the asphalt plants opening sometime at the beginning of April, get the rest of the roadway work done so that once the plant's open, the base coat can go right down. So that's the plan.
So you wanna finish the gravel work before the asphalt plant's open, as soon as it opens, put down the binder course.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, and then is there a check between the binder course and the final course?
Yes, so I would imagine that, what we can do is arrange for Bob Herschel from CEI or whoever the agent would be, that's who we've worked with in the past on the site, he's familiar with it. We can arrange a date, that we can go out and do the inspections. And once, I'm going by the list that, is with the subdivision regulations from the town. If he can sign off on these, we can just proceed to the rest of the steps.
Okay, so it seems to me that there's a two-part ask. The first is, can we go through and do the stuff with the road? Can we lift our cease and desist? And the second is, how is that gonna be guaranteed? Is it going to be on a Form F or in some other format?
Correct.
So, I actually, because project compliance, performance guarantee policy is actually later on our agenda. So I'm gonna throw this open to the board to their discussions about the second part. In terms of doing this backwards, unless, well, yeah, let's do it that way, and then we can get into what the work is gonna be. So you all heard the description in terms of the 3 ways to guarantee performance. The format is, which we depend on Mike Silva desperately enforcing. See the Hawthorne Lane discussion also coming up. Is that the format, they can't sell anything, can't build anything. And the others, require a cash deposit of some sort.
Okay, question.
Sure.
Is it the planning board cease and desist order, or is it the conservation commission?
Well,
Both.
we each have a season to set.
Right, so both would need to be lifted, correct? To Marshall.
Not for the roads, just for the roads, it's just us, right?
Yeah.
Because your roads are outside of the buffer.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
It's anything retaining to the basin, if I understand correctly, that would require a cooperative.
So if I may, just to clarify.
Yeah.
The original cease and desist that was issued in August of 2021.
Mhm.
And it was a joint cease and desist order from the planning board and the conservation commission. The requirements were, there were two requirements in the cease and desist. For the site to be stabilized, and then for a review to be done regarding the detention basin. So the review was done and the cease and desist was partially lifted last March.
Right.
So that some preliminary work can be done. And then in August and September, it was lifted so that further roadway work could be done. So the cease and desist that was issued in August of 2021 was lifted. There is no cease and desist presently. The enforcement order from Concom just has to do with the replication work that needs to be done based on the recent incident in December. And in the order, it does say, no further work, potentially next to the buffer until they can issue the rule.
So they've got to stabilize around all that storm water stuff.
Right,
On the side, they're
Right.
talking about the left-hand side of the property.
And
So-
in all of the work that we're discussing tonight, as far as the roadway is concerned, everything is
Everything is outside of the
is
buffer.
outside of the buffer.
And this is gonna go to, at least initially, to alternative detention areas to allow you to finish work on the primary.
Correct.
Get out there, hydro seed and hydro seed and hydro seed.
so basically you're just trying to finish the work to reach the order of conditions that was original.
They complement each other.
And prevent another
And
incident,
that's really the primary driving force.
which makes sense to
Get
me.
that established.
Because we've been starting and stopping, and there's such a gap going through some of these rain events.
Well, I mean, I understand, the whole concept of it, and number one, it makes sense to get it finished. Number two, if you keep going over and over the same issue and you're just throwing money and effort and it's not getting accomplished.
Correct.
So I understand where you guys are coming from. It makes sense to me.
Like pouring water into the wind, it just.
Yeah,
keeps
not,
coming back again.
We're not trying to prevent, I'm trying to understand so I can make sure you can do what you need to do and it's corrected.
So it would seem to me, based on the questioning, I'm not hearing anybody opposed to your completing the road on your schedule. So I mean, that would be my sense of the board. The question now is, how are we going to guarantee that you do it?
Well, I have just a backup question, so if you don't mind.
Again, it wasn't a vote. That was simply.
Right.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. More for my clarification than anything. Backing up to the road, you mentioned in your explanation, utilities and is the skeleton work for the, or is it underground utilities up there? So underground, okay, so if we're gonna possibly allow this work on the roadway, will work for the skeleton framework for the underground utilities be done, so you're not digging again?
That's actually first.
Okay,
Disturb the minimum amount of area, but in the underground, conduits.
Yeah.
The crossings across the road, transformer, that's all. Now spread along, let that start stabilizing, and now start the back of the street. We're approximately 100 yards away from almost. Real work.
okay, that's, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it correctly. Second follow-up question. And forgive me if I've lost the answer somewhere in my notes. Is the intention for this to remain a private road or ask the town to take it?
So, right.
Private road, hence the homeowners association and all the other fun stuff that comes with all of that.
That was the understanding,
Okay,
and with the approval was that the roadway and the roadway utilities would be maintained by a homeowners association.
okay. Thank you, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and following on your question, Kendra, in addition to the private roadway, the subsurface, septic system, sewage treatment system is also owned and maintained by the homeowners association.
Correct.
Oh, is it gonna be a universal
So
septic?
So it's private wells. Majority of the homes have, individual septic systems. There's a few lots, that will be on
Shared.
common system.
So,
Give a shared system. But all of that would be maintained by the homeowners association.
except for the individually owned
Yeah.
septic. So if it's specific to that particular lot, it's on the homeowner, like somebody who's not in the subdivision.
Correct.
And if it's tied into the common, which we do see especially over in Acton and a couple places in Groton, the homeowners association is then in charge of maintaining and repairing the common septics. Out of pure curiosity, do you know how many common septics?
I think there's gonna be
8?
That's on what, 24?
There's 23 residential lots. There's 24 lots, 1 lot's commercial, 23 are residential.
So, Brian, have we consistently used format in the past to your knowledge?
No. I mean, I
We're not doing this.
don't, I wasn't able to get it, she answered today.
Okay, well, I just want to be cognizant.
Just so, you know, we also run a, assisted performance guarantee policy, which is.
Which is why I want to be cognizant of not changing horses in midstream. Yes, as, Ken ruined the surprise. No, we're not gonna be using those escrow accounts anymore.
I've been saying that
But, yeah,
really loud.
But I did, for my conversation with town council, the format is often used or relied upon or method of surety. You know, surety guarantees used by developers. For bonding and road is the entire thing would be a preventive expense. So this is a convenient way for the town and the developer to accomplish the project, that part of the project. With a good sense of guarantee that, I mean, they can't sign, and they can't make anything, they can't do anything until this inspection is completed or released by the town. And I was, town council when I spoke with them were confident that this is a good way to go.
So, can I just ask some questions about the functionality of it? So I apologize, I just got this afternoon, so I've been trying to dig into it as best I can, but how darn that like gets in the way of vision. If this were to be put in place, not saying it's gonna happen, but playing devil's advocate, let's say getting through 3/4 of the road, life happens and there it sits, and the project gets abandoned. Is there money set aside somewhere like there would be for, in a bond?
No.
This is just, you say you're gonna do it, we're not gonna let you sell anything until you do it, but you really don't have any monetary skin in it.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the ownership of this property.
Right.
I'm really straight, I don't like sugarcoating words, I like to say it and then.
We'll give you the property.
Well, so that in all honesty is my concern, and just bear with me, Peter,
That's okay.
you know how my brain works.
It's Hawthorne Lane.
My fear is Hawthorne Lane, and that's been a thorn in this town's side and those poor residents, and it makes me wanna put my pen into my eye on a regular basis. I wanna make sure that if for some reason, because we can't predict the future, if the project were to get abandoned and we have a 3/4 done framework for utilities, or let's say done framework for utilities, and we have a 3/4 done road, and for some reason it goes poof and it sits there, we may not still have the full stabilization around the conservation area that's, being replicated and whatnot. Whose shoulders does it fall on to make it stable or at least maybe saleable if the project goes belly up? It can't fall on the town.
Right, I mean, my understanding is that we're expecting, the applicant is expecting a stabilization of the detention pond late in the spring or early summer.
Right.
When it dries out and they were able to go down there and do the repairs and all of a sudden, things, strike me if I'm wrong, Peter, but my understanding of the applicant's explanation is that detention pond will be stabilized, say, early summer, this summer, depending on rain events. That should be, and assuming that they go ahead and do the rectification, that part, I think it's the further on, after I think you're bringing up the scenario when the construction gets to a certain point of the road, you know, but if that doesn't happen.
So let me be really.
Well, and then like,
I think what she's bringing up is, if all of a sudden apocalypse hits tomorrow
Yeah.
and he's no longer on the planet, but that land is still there.
Yeah,
and we're having erosion
Who has
issues,
to deal with the problem?
where's the money come from to fix it and keep
I think
stuff from
that's
going into the.
a friend
yeah,
is.
sure.
Thanks.
I don't have answers for you, so if
Yeah.
nothing happens and they abandon it, they're not paying taxes on it, because.
But that takes a long time.
Yeah, that's a
That's like
multi-year
no,
process.
And I'm not saying it's gonna happen,
No,
I like to have
no, we
faith, I'm just.
For a long, long time.
Yes,
No
we-
apocalypse.
Please finish the
We
project. Exactly.
What I would, say, and hopefully this will alleviate some of your concern. So there's a couple of different things in play here. Typically, if this subdivision roadway and roadway utilities were being turned over to the town, then it would be one thing to say to the town, okay, we'll set aside X to ensure that it gets done. This is kind of a hybrid because it's still a subdivision approval, and we still have to build roadways accordingly. What my intention is, and what Ron's intention is, if we finish these steps that we talked about, they want to pull building permits this spring.
Oh, sure, I don't blame them.
And we won't be able to, because if the Form F is approved, I record that at the registry of deeds, it shows up so that not anything can happen. Once that base is down and the sub drains are in and the berms are in, the intent is to come back to the board shortly, hopefully within the next month or so, month and a half. Here's the rest of the work that needs to be done. Final coat, this, that, it's gonna cost $50,000. We would typically go to the municipality and say, here's the $50,000, put it in escrow, and when we're done, we'll come back. And, you know, after all finals inspections, what have you. In this instance, what I've done with other communities is we can at least establish adequate security in some type of escrow account. Because if the homeowners association is approved, the ultimate beneficiary of these roadways is the homeowners association. And it's almost like we will pledge some type of security so that if apocalypse happens, someone taking over the land is not going to be in a position where the roadway utilities can't be completed.
I guess it's that.
So your position then is format to get up to, but not including the final code.
Correct.
At which point we'll be talking about escrow funds, bond, however, whatever mechanism
Exactly.
that becomes.
So release a certain amount of lots, keep the rest of them under the covenant so that we can, move in bits and pieces. We'll work something.
Will a performance bond guarantee the maintenance of the road in perpetuity?
No.
That's what the HOA is for.
That's-
That's the
the-
homeowners association
the-
issues.
The roadway bond is really supposed to ensure that the roadway and the roadway utilities are completed pursuant to this town subdivision regulations. Once that happens, so for instance, if this roadway were gonna be accepted by the town, once everything was completed and the inspections were done and they said, yep, everything's fine, then we turn the road over to the town, it would be the town's responsibility.
But we're not doing that right.
Exactly, what we're proposing here is, and my intention was to get the homeowner association documents approved, so that I could record them and then transfer the roadway to the homeowners association so that we can move forward.
Almost like Bridgefield.
But there's a mechanism.
I understand the whole concept. It makes sense to me because obviously your ultimate goal is to pull building
Right.
permits so you can
Right.
move on your way and sell your properties, make your money, complete the project, and everybody's a happy camper.
Right.
So, and I mean, the longer it waits, my opinion is they can't move forward. It's not helping us. It's not helping their project. So, yeah, you can implement all kinds of stipulations, but there also has to be a little bit of a trust factor because, I mean, they're wanting to do business and
Well, if there is an apocalypse, hopefully the binder force will break down.
there's an apocalypse, if there's an apocalypse, it's gonna be,
And all the Norway maples will take care of
it's
it.
gonna be trouble for everybody if that happens.
So all we're being asked to decide tonight then is if we approve of your guys going forward through binder and if we approve of using a Form F to do it.
Where is a public meeting, are we voting on it tonight? Or,
Well, this is more, is it?
As
Public
meeting.
it's all, yeah, it's a public meeting,
yeah,
so it's not a hearing, but I believe that we can vote on it.
If it was a hearing, then we'd have.
yes.
Yeah, hearing would be different. So is anyone opposed to this, or would anyone like more information about Form F, the process, anything else?
So where it's a public meeting, should we ask the public after the day?
No, it's not a hearing.
Okay.
Although we can have people, I mean, there is someone who I know is interested in the property who is here in the room, and I'm very, pleased to ask them in general, and I'll set up a public comment.
Okay.
If somebody's up there jumping up and down, waving their hand, that's one thing.
See no strings. So quick procedural thing, just again, Peter, and forgive me. Even, should this be voted on tonight, at what point does the homeowners association get filed with the registry? Because I have some questions about verbiage.
Okay, so that's,
Is that, will that be addressed potentially in the meeting when you guys come back around?
well, I think I need some clarification on the homeowners association.
Can we wait a minute? Can we-
Yep.
Yeah,
let's just-
Yeah, if it's a
let's
conversation
finish it
for later, then we'll finish
Yeah,
with
Al-
that.
also
But
because
it's one of the
I don't think we've seen all of town council's feedback on those documents, so it's probably more
Yeah.
productive
That's fine.
to have Peter and town council go back and forth a couple times before we get into.
So then maybe Brian, I'll give you my notes about,
Yes, please.
just, because I've never seen it
Yes.
HOA before.
Yeah, some of these documents are certainly a learning opportunity,
yes,
so.
I was being sarcastic.
yeah,
But for some of the rest of us that don't sell condominiums for a living, some of them are more.
I'm not pigeonholed just in condominiums, I do
Yes,
have
I'm
single
here.
family homes
Very-
that do have common septics in the verbiage relative to maintenance, because it's not technically a common area, it is.
Yeah, Mark, do you have any comments you'd like to make before we, come to some conclusion?
I chair the Fort Pond Association in Hill. I do wonder,
But by the way, you might as well say your full name and address.
sorry, Arthur Moore, 131 Central Bridge Road, Where, yeah, so. Not really generically, but, so you get your roadway, you build the houses. And then you discover that it's still flooded. And I don't know if you're all aware of this, but Old Brook, where this goes, is input into Fort Pond. So, time before the last time, when they had a flood onto Route 70, it's all downhill to the pond. And the brook is there as well. And the brook filled, just happens to be my family's cove with silt. Ground, the pond turned totally ground, but that's in the past. But we're moving to the future. And who does the Fort Pond Association or anybody else go to in the town? If there's a problem, flooding into Fort Pond.
Well, I'll leave that to Brian for a full, response, but I would think it's a combination. Mike Silva, the building inspector, is the enforcement officer, and also whoever the conservation agent is at that time, who's also an enforcement officer. We can set all this stuff up,
Completed and.
yep, because at a certain point, the planning board is about planning and permitting. But we don't have enforcement powers. So we have to do our enforcement before the fact.
Right. It's here, we get into these.
Well, I mean, because it's important, because now you have a cap pipe and, you know, there was a little bit of leakage and now we gotta see it with the rest of the restoration. I get what you're saying. With the rest of the restoration, this is not before, this is like most recent, because they capped a pipe and so on and so forth. So hopefully with the restoration project, that'll button it all up for you, but yeah.
Well, yeah, there may be other problems too.
But yeah, you get water conservation.
Everybody don't know. Those are kind of. Very.
I heard you.
I bet you know.
It's almost like, oh, you're that tender.
That one,
There's
the other
another
two.
one?
So,
So that's,
I have one other question, and it's a little offbeat, but just, and this is more a curious question. The septic systems up there, especially the shared, will there be like alarms on them, or like, is that something that is in the plan? And the only reason I ask is, I know like, Blue Heron, they have an alarm system on their shared septic system that the little red light goes off and all of a sudden you see all the pump trucks go down and, you know, I know Harvard has that on some of their shared septics up in the ponds area.
Right.
So I'm just asking, especially a shared, you know,
Each one of the homes that are
Yeah.
on the shed have their own septic tank in
okay,
their yard, just like a normal septic system.
okay,
Then the gray waters.
the gray water is a shared, got it.
Yeah, the leach
Okay,
field share.
thank you.
And if there is a regulation to that, show them what got well.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, but
They'll look into it,
yeah,
make sure
no,
you get a
Blue Heron
big
has
check mark
big
in
share,
that box.
Okay, thank you, that's totally different, thank you.
so, are there any further questions about this? So, I would look for a motion that, gives permission to 2038 Lunenburg to complete their road and underlying utilities up through but not beyond the binder course, and to secure all that, through a format, acceptable to town council.
Motion,
Second,
Any further discussion?
Did you say curbing then?
And curbing. Underground utilities, curbing, binder course. Anything else?
yeah, what's neat, we have closed caption tonight, so I can actually keep up.
I just didn't hear it.
No, it's okay.
That's because I didn't say it, so thank you for mentioning it.
So, those are the.
Okay, so yes, but let me just read this so everybody's clear. So it will be subgrade plain preliminary. That's 1. 2 is installation of drains and catch basins. 3 is installation of services, water, gas, sewage, and cable. Is that also part of this, or is that way?
Just the cable utility, just because it's well water and septic things.
Got it. 4 is subgrade plain final. 5 is gravel base. 5 is base course paving. 6 is grade of catch basin inlets, and 7 is installation of curbing. I assume you'll accept all those as a change to your motion.
I totally accept that.
Fantastic.
You want me to make another motion to
Nope.
accept it? Okay.
Nope, don't have to. But you can accept it as a friendly amendment. So, okay, any further discussion? Now I've read this exhaustive list. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Mike?
Yes.
George? Yes. Kendra?
Yes.
Regina?
Yes,
And Frank, yes. So, I know it's been a really long road for you guys. I appreciate all the stuff that you've been
yeah,
doing.
that is one of the longest roads.
But we look forward to seeing you back. I don't know, what, the April 8th meeting probably, given when the asphalt plant's open?
Around the first.
Yeah, well, you know, depending on that and CEI schedule, but, we'll look forward to hearing that you've completed all the stuff and you want to do on the final course.
And I'll wave as I drive by to North Leominster on an almost daily basis.
And then,
It's just the path I choose for whatever reason.
if we could just, speak about the intent of the homeowners association and the conservation restriction. When the permit was issued, the intent was to create a homeowners association for the purposes of maintaining the road utilities, because the town did not want to become a public way. The open space component and the trail that was incorporated on the open space, according to the town's regulations and the bylaw, the open space shall be conveyed to the town or its conservation commission, a nonprofit organization, or a trust owned jointly with the lot owners. And what it says there is that the association restrictions in the deed shall be subject to planning board approval and shall be thereafter recorded. So what I was working on with Brian was submitting those documents so that we could have them review, typically get some feedback from the town council, and then say, okay, yep, everybody's happy, final form. That's when, to Kendra's point, we would then record those documents at the registry of deeds so that they, control the roadway utilities, the open space. And the landowners that buy the individual lots will be taking title subject to the declaration of trust and conservation restriction and the homeowners association bylaws. That'll all be incorporated into the deed. So what I'm typically used to is I submit the documents to the town or to the municipality and city. We get some feedback from town council who says, yes, we like this, no, we don't like this. Make sure there's protection in there if the town had to step in, and then we proceed. So hopefully that will be how we'll proceed in this instance. And if it's possible, I would hope that since we did submit the documents, hopefully sometime in March, we can get some feedback so that we are ready. So that if we come back at the end of March or the very beginning of April, we'll be in a position to follow through on the remaining items. So that we can actually come in, give a status on the roadway construction, hopefully pull some building permits in April.
We'll see. Brian, you've given those to town, sent those.
Yes,
across
so
the
that's
town.
right, and the recommendation back to me was, the applicant should, of those 4 documents, tighten those up a bit, and come back with a more, signature ready document. So I think we thought there was a typo and a few other things, or another town was named, and, I think they're reluctant to give their feedback specifically to the applicant, directly to the applicant. I think but I'm sure that if we come back with some more, with tighter documentation, I can then certainly work with town council to come back with more recommendations for you. I don't think there'll be a direct communication between town council and applicant.
My concern
But you
is
guys
that's
can-
a really tight schedule, based on the date of today. So do you
What March
think,
20th?
what? Yeah, I mean, it's only 3 weeks from now. And if there's some back and forth,
March 24th,
4 weeks. Okay, so 4.
But, let's put it this way, I'm sure.
Not Kendra. Do you think that's a realistic schedule with everything else on your plate?
No, I think it's realistic.
Okay.
I'm not sure if, thinks you can get these, by the end of this week or something, or next week, I will turn around.
We're gonna have sooner than.
Call our council.
Because I can't call town council, can I throw you a couple of my questions?
Yes.
You mentioned something about, so what I've seen historically in my day job is when I come across an HOA, like up at Hickory Hills in Lunenburg. There's an HOA for the common areas, the common beach, blah, blah, blah. that fee, without filing any additional paperwork with registry, automatically conveys of the sale of the property. Is that say, there's not gonna be any re-recording of like, so if I go by 123 Hickory Road up on Hickory Hills, and there's already an HOA that's been there for decades, it's disclosed that the annual HOA fee is $500, let's say. That I don't have to do anything else, I own the property, the HOA members get notified of the sale, and that now, you know, Kendra Dickinson has to pay the $500 HOA fee annually instead of Bob Smith. Nothing has to be recorded as an expense at the registry of deeds. Is that a comparable setup here?
I think this is, and this is my experience with new HOAs, brand new. It's the HOA setting those fees.
Right,
So unlike one you're selling into an existing,
right.
the HOA has to come up with.
No, I know, I wanna make sure there was no mechanism that was triggered with the sale of a home later on down the road, that there now needs to be an expense for the new buyer to re-record something to the HOA, or does it just follow the property?
No,
Yeah, that should all go with the original
Yeah.
deed.
Yeah,
what's
okay,
incorporated.
I don't speak lawyer.
What's incorporated in the document is that someone buying can contact the homeowners association and say, hey, are all the dues paid, are all the annual fees paid?
Right, you have to get like
Give a certificate, similar to like a 60.
a condo.
That's
Yeah, that usually comes from the bank.
Oh, and that's fine, I just, in all of the legal fun stuff in this document, because I'm not an attorney, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't some type of added expense that, because have been a lot of changes to the way HOAs are structured
Yeah.
versus 20 years ago when a place like Hickory Hills was start to expand.
Correct.
So I've done a lot of work up there, that's why it's just the first example that pops into my somewhat oversized model. And then my other question would be for town council, maybe Peter, you can expand upon this. In section 5, where it's common and special charges, it says HOA maintenance of all sewage disposal systems, the Royal Estates Homeowners Association common areas. So you said there's gonna be a team for each specific lot, but the system, so the piping and the D-boxes will be specific to the lot also, correct?
The distribution boxes, just the tank.
Just the tank, so does that include so then are the D-boxes and the baffles and everything
Maybe one, two, however it's designed, will be at the leach field.
okay? And
Each house to be it, with the 1,500 gallon tanks.
so then that leach field in this document, the way it's prepared, it falls under the common area. It doesn't need to be broken out, common area and then common septic leach field, baffles and blah, blah, blah.
That's why I asked for the
I would think that that's something.
So when,
And that's a conversation for the attorneys, it's some of that.
it'll be clarified once we actually have the system designed.
Right,
Because we'll know where things are, where they're located, what they are. So that we can more.
I just wanna make sure.
Well, that's all gonna be approved by the Board of Health anyway.
Exactly,
So they're the ones that have the bottom line, that's gonna handcuff you to do what you have to do.
right.
Yeah,
It's pretty much a standard procedure.
Now, the open space, do you have any particular preference in terms of who owns it?
Well, our understanding was that the conservation restriction would be placed on the open space. And that would be deeded to the homeowners association. Because that's what I was basing everything on.
Well, so there's gonna be a cost to monitor. And the homeowners, so it needs to say explicitly, that if that is how it's going to go, that the cost of monitoring has to be covered, because a conservation restriction has to be monitored by a third party, either, the town or a private entity.
Correct.
Because they've got to go in and look at it, actually have to file a report with the Commonwealth every year.
Right.
So, well, we didn't want you to get bored, potentially gonna go into retirement in life. We want you to have stuff to do. So yes, there will be forms.
Yeah.
So if that could be addressed in the homeowners association, just to make sure all that's appropriately done, you're gonna have to find, you're gonna have to see if the homeowners association is going to own the land. You're gonna have to see if the Concom wants to take on CR monitoring, or if you're gonna have to have somebody else.
My understanding was that the town did not want, they didn't want the Concom or a town agency being responsible for it. So that's why we set it up where it would just be the law almost that did it. Because keep in mind,
The conservation restriction has to be enforced by someone other than the owner.
correct, you have to run to the Commonwealth, because that's the ultimate. And that's why they brought that form to the environmental, executive office. That the town council is created.
Well, we can discuss that internally, I mean, we don't need to have you here for that, that's not happening
Correct.
today anyway, so. Does anyone on the board have any further questions for these gentlemen on things that are in front of us tonight? No, neither do I, so unless, Brian, you have anything more?
I just wanted to, anticipating that they'll be pulling some building permits. There's different conditions in the special permit. The way the iPod is, there are certain things in there that require an affidavit from an engineer, like when the driveways are in, to verify that the site distances are correct. The previous board wanted a condition in there that houses being placed on the lots would be staggered so that they weren't like right on top of each other or create a visual. And they didn't want a same style house, being like blah, blah, blah. So there's different things in there that are a requirement, but there was no real clarification on who says yes to it, how it gets approved, and if the board has to sign off on it. And there's another requirement in there about getting site plan approval for each, I assume it's for each lot within subdivision. So what I've been discussing with Brian is, right now, there are 8 building lots that have approved septic design and systems. So that shortly they'll be able to, once the well testing is done, start applying for those permits. If we were to come in with 8 septic design plans that show the building envelope of the house, the location of the well, and the septic system, what have you, I don't know how precise we can be with the location of the driveway because it hasn't been installed yet. But would that be something you would want us to present to the planning board to say, yeah, okay, it complies with the permit, or is that something we would do with the building inspector as we go along?
It would seem to me that would be Brian and Mike Silva, our building commissioner, for some of that stuff. But what I think might be appropriate is, because I've read that permit, is send Brian a letter just going through the 20 things and saying, yes, this is clear, and we have some clarification on this, because, we don't want to take up a lot extra time of yours or of ours.
Yeah.
But I'm very concerned that, especially because of the previous board that gave the permit, that this board understands to the extent possible their thought process. Excuse me, and the things that now you're sitting there trying to execute on it aren't especially clear. It would seem to me that some of the stuff that you just described is probably, because the subdivision has already been done, I don't know if you need to bring those specifics back to the board, but I would defer to Brian.
I think what we want to be diligent with is the integrity of the iPod special permit, so it was an integrated plan. So this is almost like any other site plan. We want to make sure that it is being built as close to the plan as possible. If there's any deviations, let us know, just like we have any other place. So, so we have for instance, the architectural styles we have those in file, so there'd be the cardinal and the whatever, the others.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're supposed to be on different lots, and so it's the integrity of the special permit that we want to maintain, and so that's the reason why we have these spot or new site plan reviews, to see, are they being staggered, are the roof lines different, are the, of course, the board helping the driveways and the sight lines. That's a Mike Silver thing. Mike said, well, as long as I'm just gonna go out there and see if the driveway is built as according to plan, that's all he needs to see, and as long as those site distances should then be, compliant, or reflected in the as-bills, that should be fine. So it's really, I think it's the integrated plan you want.
Absolutely, and the sub requirements, which, just as a reminder, you probably want to reach back out to the Affordable Housing Trust and, start kicking that part into gear, only because the consultants that you need to hire to deal with the affordable units it's a process. It takes some time, so you want to get that started.
One of the possibilities is the habitat, the community. They're very interested in, the lots. I guess they're ready-made for affordable, and they have their own affordable documents. They have approvals through the state. They're very, very, interested in acquiring the 2 lots that are set aside.
Remember, it's not 2 lots that are set aside, it's 2 completed houses.
It's 2 homes.
But they would Habitat for Humanity, they build
They
the
want,
home.
they want.
They use the lot
So-
for the home.
So
we
my
had-
suggestion
We had
is,
discussions with them. They would donate the land. The Habitat would build the homes and place them into the affordable water. Exactly.
I know where you're going, to check with like Victoria and
run it by the trust,
the trust.
just because the iPod terms are very specific and they don't contemplate having a third party do it. Doesn't mean that that's not totally possible and reasonable, but again, spend a little time, not only Victoria, but Carolyn Reed of the trust, is, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, the Habitat.
she's with Habitat,
Yeah.
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, she knows her stuff,
I
and,
mean-
so work with them.
So,
Yes, but I mean, work with them, and I mean, as long as what you propose complies with the iPod permit, i.e. somehow we're not dropping the number of units or something, then, I don't see, I would think that the planning board would be agnostic as long as the units were being appropriately built. Yeah, and they have to be indistinguishable.
Correct.
That part is really important.
Okay.
Great. Well, I hope that you felt some progress is made tonight.
We do. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yes.
So, yeah, like you guys have been coming a lot, so, it's nice to be able to actually get the road in, to reduce the problem with the siltation ideally, and,
And we don't wanna slow you down. Brian, Monday through Friday, definitely your go-tos.
Okay.
The other guys are good at it, that for you.
Great. Thank you so much.
so if you need anything changed, then you must come back to us about that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, I mean, from my read of the permit, it didn't look like it was going to be onerous to comply with.
And I would suggest don't come back to us after the fact.
Oh, yeah, definitely don't do
We
that.
won't do that.
They
Yeah.
sat through
Yeah.
those meetings already.
Yeah, that's true. You got to watch another
Yeah, they
applicant
do.
deal.
Yeah.
We don't
Just
recommend, we don't recommend.
No, it was answered. I mean, it sounds like they had a format from the previous planning board.
Yeah.
And that's the route you should go, and now, be compliant with Mike Silva and town council, and you should be able to get your building permits.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. I mean, it's nothing we can change. It's already set, etched in stone. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you guys for coming, for persevering. And, we look forward to never seeing any sediment again.
right. Yeah, sediment is bad.
Isn't someone gonna say my sediments exactly?
No,
Okay.
Sorry.
that's why I think I'll like, where you were going.
I said, well, I go through the.
Oh, it's 19.
Well, no, I just, I
I'm
don't.
on the breath.
We'll see.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
On the cheek.
Sorry. I'm thinking about other things, so file on this project, right, with the site and.
Well, we're not trying to have it.
No, it's.
Well, yeah, I imagine most of the cases, there's different iterations of ownerships. I was back.
Okay, how cumbersome is it to distribute from? Like,
I mean,
Cardinal.
oh, that's, I mean, if you want to be, I think innovations, you need that card.
I don't have any historic site plan information, stuff like that, about this was happening way before I got to the game.
Yeah, but I think,
So-
I think. Timeline, is on the timeline, the iteration.
Well, what's the most current site plan?
Yeah, right.
Where, where do I find, things are open, don't know that. Well, sure, it's an open meeting.
That's like, go right in the jar, I mean,
It's a jar,
that's in the jar, meeting.
Okay, Brian, you have to talk now.
We don't think of before, man.
Okay.
That- Okay, so a staff report.
Yes. Debut. That review.
Okay.
Going to the tub.
Okay. All right. So, master plan process. So this is the Lancaster Planning Board staff report, February 26, 2024. Master plan process, community forum number 2 is set for this Thursday evening at 7 p.m. at the Mary Rawlinson Elementary School. High school focus group will be about the same afternoon. And then I want to refer you to the, which I gave you tonight, I guess it's for you,
Yes.
an email, the latest plan. Don't know if we want to discuss this, any discussion on this now.
No, I have a question on the high school, or teenage high school, I didn't
Sure.
describe it. So that's gonna be in the afternoon, you said?
Yes, I had to go back to the. I don't even sure, do you remember?
I think it's 11:32.
2:30.
11:32.
To 2.
At the
So
high
they-
school,
over two periods.
At the high
Remember
school?
those? Yeah.
Oh.
You know, so they're trying to maximize the number of students who will come in. And I believe the principal was working with Wayne, saying he thinks he's identified like a civic-minded group or a student council or something.
Okay.
Trying to outreach those students particularly to participate. So the principal at the high school is very helpful to
Nice.
getting this going.
Are we talking about just students from Lancaster?
Well, I think they'd be the ones who are most interested, but I guess if I was a civic-minded student in the high school and wanted to learn about the master planning process from another town, I'd go over just to. I don't know, I mean, but, you know, I think that every person's voice is valuable, but I mean, of course, you want to hear from Lancaster students, particularly. Excluding the voices.
I had definitely hoped to attend that. But I have a meeting with our foster child's school folks. So
Yeah, that's that.
I'm out of pocket till at least noon or 12:30. I'll try and come up after, but any chance you might be able to?
I was gonna say, what time is that?
11:30 to 2:30, and I think,
On what
two
day?
different sessions, this is that same afternoon, Thursday afternoon, the 29th. And it's gonna be at the high school,
So 11:30 to 2:30 at the high school.
yeah. And,
That's on Thursday. I'll check. I honestly, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it, but I will
I
check.
don't know, I'm gonna get over there myself.
Who's leading it? Like,
Wait,
No, the high school's usually locked, so we would just
Yeah.
say with it, okay. we
Yeah.
just ask.
you just say Lancaster Planning Board, we're here for the student, high school
And they're
student
gonna
focus
See,
group
no,
semester.
no.
And they're gonna go, deny. I'll get the deny.
Well, the key is tell the students, here's
So
your
it's
opportunity to
one-
tell your parents what to
Okay.
do.
I'm just asking, one more time, it's one session for 3 hours or two?
no, 2 sessions.
Okay,
Two
thank you.
different sessions, like, I think they're inviting students to come in during one session, one period, and then
Right.
another period, so there's 2 opportunities.
Okay, probably two study halls.
So probably like
Yeah.
11 to 12:30, or 11:30 to 12:30, and then 1:30 to 2:30.
So,
Yeah,
Give them,
it's like
like,
a study
lunch or
hall,
something,
yeah. It's a study hall. They'll be in room 216.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I felt like it was really important to try to present this to the students as an opportunity to determine what the town would be like when they were raising their families.
right,
Instead of just abstract, oh, here's a master plan for
yeah,
Lancaster.
no, so, yeah, I didn't get the exact format from Wayne, but I mean, it sounds like this was, format for focus groups. Well, my question for Wayne needs to be, which will be Wednesday before the meeting, is, one of the focus groups is, yes, like that, planning and doing all focus groups. So far, it's something we want to call.
I had heard the possibility of doing another community focus group at First Church. And, we'd be thrilled to do that.
Sure, they did mention, and I did hear that, and the third community forum was scheduled for sometime in May. My only question there would be, the recording. I mean, we have SLBTV at the first, scheduled to come in for the second. But, will that be able to happen at the, I don't know what equipment, what audio equipment, what.
So, but do we have to?
No,
Well, and here's why, it's not that I don't want, you know me, I'm all about transparency. Oh, did they? Oh, well, I forget what part of the church Wynn had suggested using.
It would be in Hawkins Hall,
Okay,
which is.
is that like the St. Patrick's Day dinner and stuff?
Right.
Okay,
And the Montessori school is also.
right, so,
just wanted to, Wayne thinks it's a great idea, he loves it, it just needs to be accessible. I don't know.
Sure.
yeah, we're like, let's make it more of a community, like, pop lawn, fire pit.
Right,
Yeah.
that's where the.
Free flowing open discussion instead of a,
Right,
understanding
So-
the code on
so
our finger.
If it's gonna be a free flowing like that, recording it's gonna be almost impossible. If you have people over at the fire pit, people in the dining room,
Right,
people in the coffee lounge, you.
that's why I wasn't sure if there's a requirement for us, I love the format, I love the idea, I embrace it, but is there a requirement for it to be recorded?
no,
Maybe we don't record it, more people will show up.
maybe that's it.
There's always that. Well, just, if they're little pads and pens, then people, when you're in your small groups, look, hey, this is a great idea.
No, no,
And then just give everything to Wayne at the end of the night. That would work.
Okay.
we're not saying it won't work, just, it won't work in an electronic format.
Cause there's a lot of folks who participate in those events at the First Church that are never gonna walk in
Yeah, it
that.
sounds like school.
Yeah.
I've got to play a bit.
I do too, hey, you can hold it in my backyard. Cool.
Okay, so you're all reviewing this
Yeah.
and, you
And
can
I
channel
will be
feedback. Okay, we're not gonna beat it up right now. I mean, of course, Wayne emphasized that this is a lot of credit practice. This is very, very important. Okay, Number two, wayfinding program, so civic space consultant, if it's from the town with Joe Mueller and myself, Joe did a great job pointing out many of the points of entry for a historic / cultural / recreational wayfinding program. Shout out Amy Brown of the Lancaster Historic Commission, who was graciously sharing her stellar work in mapping historic landmarks and towns she's already done. That she's done, pretty sophisticated job. She has an app, and you go to the apps and go to the markers, push on a button.
Very
and
interesting.
So her and I were talking about that in our meeting last week. Is the app already done? Or I know she has the idea of the
Yeah,
app,
no, she shared something that is pretty functional.
because I thought it was really just
Yeah.
walking me through it, and I'm like, this is so
Well,
cool.
I mean, I was just glad that, I didn't know about, when we first met with the consultants and said, well, maybe we should do this historic cultural recreational format, I had no idea that it was working. So I was like, yeah, sure.
Probably overlaid with something with bolt trails or something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, so, we spent about an hour and a half talking about it, so. It's a lot talking about it, but I thought that was wicked neat.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna be nice to work. Okay, so this work is proving to be invaluable and invaluable resource for this project. Civic Space will also be at the forum on Thursday night. They will have a table in the hall with project information, and we'll have a couple of informational slides that will be presented at the end of the WAVE program. The consultants are busy scheduling stakeholder interviews with boards and committees such as see emails, stakeholder lists, planning board. George, have they already said that something with you? They haven't?
Planning board and.
No. Planning board is a representative. They're supposed to reach out. They want to meet with some representative. They can send an email, no, I haven't found. You haven't heard from them.
I haven't seen anything since they canceled the one meeting.
Oh, okay, all right, let me follow up on that. Every day, and last couple of days, there's been a ton of emails coming through. Oh, so historic commission, they've already met with Kathy Silver. They're trying to schedule something with Kelly Dolan as the, Health and Human Services Director. And Conservation Commission, I think she's reaching out to Tom. Village 70th Adventist Church, who just, so we have reached out to each of the pastors at each of the churches. They are from their pulpits and share with their community information, but they're also reaching out to them, Pastor Cleaver Hernandez, Pioneer Pastor Isaac Aino, and Pastor Luis Miguel. The church on Sawyer Street. Commission on Disability, I think that would be Kate. Council on Aging, Caitlin Roy, and the Cultural Council. So these are all folks that they're looking to set up stakeholder focus groups, stakeholder meetings. Okay, so performance guarantee policy, I want to talk about work in progress, but we'll get a boost in priority with the new business to be discussed at the upcoming agenda item on decommissioning solar projects, next agenda. Boswell Lane, the town administrator scheduled a meeting on, right after our last meeting on February 12th, inviting town council Harrington Heath to provide a briefing on where we are on this in where we are and where we need to be to reach a resolution on this project. The intention of getting all staff and boards on the same page on exactly what the problem is and how it may be resolved. It seems to me, I think Frank, you were there, that meeting, right? So I think there's some agreement on some of it, but I think this is a work in progress. So there's no set resolution at this point. I think the idea is things that may have been discussed, we will carve out for the pumping station. We want to see how, but it's still a work in progress. But I think at some point or soon, the intention is that everyone's going to be on the same page in terms of what is the problem and what is the
It talked about having a follow-up on Monday the 4th or Tuesday the 5th.
Right.
Neither of which I could make, so I don't know if they went back to Monday.
I haven't heard anything, but I know, and then Kate's been on vacation, she's just back today.
Yeah. Well, so you and I can
Yeah.
interface on that. But I think it would be helpful to have the link available to all the planning board members to at least watch.
Okay.
You know, if not, I mean, if you see stuff happening and you want to engage, you know, absolutely raise your hand. But I mean, this is a pretty critical issue for the town in terms of fixing. So, you know, I just think it'd be good for all the members to just get a sense of why this is so difficult, honestly.
I've watched it 3 times already, and I'm still pulling nuggets from here and there, and hence my
Yeah.
new soapbox about bonding escrow is a dirty word right now.
Finally, let's see, Neck Road, 13 Neck Road, 40B project update. CBA met last Thursday evening with the applicant to discuss the stormwater report, even though no stormwater permit is required for our stormwater regulations, as you all know. The ZBA requested a site rated report. The town's review of Haley Ward provided comments on the letter provided. The town's contracted counsel for this project, we were out for Adam Cost.
Yeah.
He solicited him specifically for this project work. He's emphasizing that even though the ZBA has jurisdiction on approving 40B projects, they need to rely on all of the boards and departments. Concerns are raised, residents have questions. For example, big question of the evening was the availability of sewer credits. The district board member, Ralph Gibbons, was on hand to explain the current DARPA credit available. Applicant took the verbal report under advisement, and the vote was taken to continue the public hearing until the next ZBA meeting on March 28th. But I think Adam's main point was to emphasize that the CBA needs to rely on all boards, all departments, public works department, sewer, you know, all the different districts to provide feedback when needed, you know, and that'll be partly on me to relay the questions that come up and the concerns from the ZBA meetings to the boards. So it's not just a ZBA.
And you get copies, electronic copies of their stormwater
Yes.
for us to at least,
Yeah.
take a look at.
Yeah, I can do that, and the traffic report, probably the most concern to the residents of the area is, the next meeting, Manassas Associates is preparing a traffic study. Yeah, so I'm getting excited. That'll be forthcoming in the next few weeks, before the meeting.
I drive down that road every day, sometimes 4 times a day to go visit my mother and take care of her. I need. But that's my personal experience.
Okay, so just for clarity, which intersection, because
All
there's
4,
three.
it depends on where.
Okay, there's 4. Yeah, there's 4.
Yeah, it depends on.
So,
So you're
the old
recommending.
five corners,
I find the concerns regarding obstructive views for public safety to be absolutely valid.
Yeah.
Because if I'm coming up Neck Road for whatever reason that I'm on Neck Road, which isn't the point,
and that's.
and I'm trying to make a left, and then that's already kind of a big concern.
Are you talking about coming on Center Bridge, that you have concerns on Center Bridge, or
So I-
concerns on that?
I have concerns on Neck, I have concerns on the little turn if you're coming up Center Bridge.
Yeah.
And like maybe I want to, I'm trying to picture in my head, I just tried, I don't like 4 times.
So your concern is, although everyone's concerned is about five corners, it's for this discussion, it's not five corners,
No,
it's not Fulton Roads, it's not Russell Lane, it's not the railroad track.
It is where
may be
Center-
a little intersection where you come off Main and can scoot over to get to that.
Right,
Okay.
right in front of the
Okay.
yellow cape that's there in the corner, that
Okay.
little intersection of
Okay,
multiple fingers coming together.
but where are the other 3? You said you were concerned.
No, it's the different ways you can approach that
Oh, yeah,
particular,
one intersection. got it.
that surrounds that, the line of sight stuff. So one thing that I wanted to bring up in reference to stormwater, was, of course, I was at this meeting too, was they were talking about drainage. Well, and this is what made me mention maybe taking a look at that, is there's impervious surface, talking impervious surface calculations, and I know that excites you because you love the term impervious surface. And there were also questions regarding the maintenance of said impervious surface, because as we already know, this is a very dense proposal. And there's, you know, you can't just plow the snow, you can't just use salt because it plugs all the holes in the impervious surface. You can't do the same conversation we had before on,
You don't mean impervious.
or pervious.
You mean pervious.
Impervious.
They were flipping back and forth between the two, so that I may be,
Yeah,
Are you talking about
they're not going
that
to
road?
impervious.
they're going with pervious, aren't they?
Well, it's this product called pervious concrete, and what it is, it's not the concrete per se, but it's a pervious concrete, but there's this gravel layer underneath. The
Right.
idea is that it's true, you know, stormwater, this is most of their drainage system, their stormwater system is going to be sheeting over this pervious concrete, draining, doing pre-treating. And it says that it's an 80% TSS, you know, total suspended solid treatment of to recharge.
Right.
Groundwater. The problem is it's high maintenance. You gotta
Right.
keep it, it's like
You can't stand.
skin, you know,
Right.
it's full of oils and grease and all of a sudden.
If it gets all clogged up and the water's just running off like
Right.
impervious.
So,
Yeah,
so-
go ahead.
no, no,
I'm 100% for pervious surface and recharge to groundwater, hurrah that. But if they're using it for an area that's gonna be used for parking, then you've got vehicle fluids, you know, I don't see them installing a recent oil separator. You know, I'm concerned about that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want vehicle fluids going into the groundwater, no, thank you.
Or
That's a great-
directly
that's a great point.
Nashville right next to it.
So.
That's a great point, right there.
Here's my bouncing part. One of the filtration parts that they were feeding into this because of the limited capacity over there is apparently there's already an underground storm drain, if I understand that correctly.
Yes.
And there was very vague conversation about that storm drain being able to handle 100-year flood type flow because it goes into a pipe that drains out towards the natural. Oh, and there go the evidence. Which is why I mentioned to Frank that after the meeting was over, granted, we don't have permitting authority over this specific stormwater. However, it may be pertinent to peel back our eyelids a little bit and go, let's take a closer look at this and give our feedback to the ZBA, and then they can do with it as they please.
Right.
So here's the documents, and, you know, we can certainly weigh in. I'll just reference our discussion about GFI, where we were talking about pervious pavement and walked away from it, for what I think we all thought were very good reasons. So, you know, the question is there, do they have enough room for really catch basins?
No, I think that's a problem, there isn't.
We're trying to figure out where the trash receptacles gonna go.
Well, where's the snow?
Where's the snow gonna go?
Or where's
Like,
the snow?
there's a lot of where
Where's
it's,
the outdoor space, children? Gonna go?
Where the snow goes, so the children can play in the snow.
after it takes out the vinyl fence and destroys it, because being an owner of 1,000-pound animals that hit vinyl fence when it's cold, they shatter. They don't bend, vinyl fence breaks when it's cold with any type of even limited force. If you kick it, it's gonna go. So anything, but that's outside of our purview.
Right.
Specifics to stormwater, those were a couple of the key
Yeah.
points I heard in that meeting that made me perk up and go, wait a minute.
Well, I think a key stress point is going to be the density and something they get on in terms of.
Yeah, well, I know like fire's already been reached out to give feedback on the safety, public access safety in case of an emergency. We've got,
Fire department.
yeah, we have Chief Moody who's gonna, you know, give his feedback on traffic, but again, that's off of our table.
Yeah,
That's just stuff I was asking about, my nosiness.
yeah,
But it's, for us, it's the stormwater that falls in our purview. Granted, I may have other safety concerns, which are shared by many, but specific to this board, it's the stormwater.
Well, we can provide valuable feedback and we will. As long as it's just understood that that's all we're doing is
Right.
providing
Yeah,
feedback.
we are not voting, we're not.
Yeah.
Yes, we don't want to become the permitting authority.
No,
No, absolutely not. The ZBA, you know, but they absolutely like, hey, we need, you know, we would welcome all hands.
Okay. Well, we'll proceed.
Okay, so I think that's it for my staff report. If you have next agenda item, new business or correspondence?
Yeah, well, correspondence and then new business.
Okay,
Before we move on, great job.
yes, thank you, Brian. Very well done.
I completely agree. It's really good to just be able to
I like
get
this
that
segment.
report. So,
I do,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really like this.
but you can update.
Yeah.
So we also received, so I'm not sure how much information corresponds to the business, because this came as an email, so it's correspondence.
Is
but
it new
Chelsea-
correspondence or old?
It's
Is that
new.
you, okay,
It
so
was
keep
just from
it.
this morning. Right. Well, so anyways, our friends from Zero Point. Solar batteries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in order to, get certified, they have to have a decommissioning report. Which means they have to tell us how this is all gonna be taken apart in 20-25 years. Who's gonna be responsible, who's doing it, how much is it gonna cost? And how it's gonna be bonded, okay, another bonding question. So, he is requesting 2 decommissioning bond agreements for the solar projects at 55 November, 267 Rockland. So I will be following up on this week, which will help us to find an overall performance guarantee policy. So if Greg and I are talking, this is something you need to do. This request, I think, is bringing this to the front door and front, so.
Well, don't we, if we're gonna discuss a policy change regarding the bonding, that has to be done before. Because if that gets decided before we have the bonding discussion, or the policy change discussion, we can't go back and say, oh, wait, never mind.
Right.
Now we've changed our policy, now you need to play by these new rules.
Right.
So
Yes.
having the discussion about a potential policy change is, keeps bubbling up to the top of our little to-do list.
It does seem to me, though, that a bond of this nature, which is for an activity to take place 20 years in the future, that is a much more specific bond. Nobody's gonna do an escrow or something like that, even if the escrow is held by the town. It's foolish. Why would 0 Point, if it's gonna cost 75,000 to take out a battery, put that up in cash now when they can bond it? So, I would think that when we're addressing our bonding policy, we ought to differentiate between stuff I want you to complete now, and I'm holding on to this because it's supposed to be done in the next year or two, versus,
25 years
this,
down.
I mean, if you're gonna-
way out, none of us are gonna be around when it happens.
If you're gonna ask somebody to put money in an escrow, they're gonna want interest and all of that.
Oh, yeah,
Go
you have,
with it.
yeah,
There's a lot of extra
Yeah,
accounting
it's
that
huge.
goes along with it.
yeah.
Just,
So it's good in the short term. In the
Yeah.
short term, you can say it's a non-interest bearing account,
right,
which, for a year or two at the outside, that's not particularly onerous, but trying to establish an escrow account, it's right in there, decommissioning bond.
Mm.
So, I think that when we are doing our policy, we ought to be clear that something like that is always going to be a bond.
Well, we don't need somebody who maybe comes on board down the road and maybe didn't get in the know and then signs off and, yeah, you can have half this back, no big deal.
No,
And then it's a pigeonhole later on down.
well, yeah, and it's so much easier with bond, because it's like, you
It
must
was
do
there.
these things.
yeah.
And, check them all off, we'll release the bond. So, but in the short term, so they will get us some documentation and we can run
He's
by.
gonna give us a report, so he will be providing us the decommissioning report, so with that report, but then from that report, he's gonna be looking for a decommissioning bond. How, not a bond policy, or process, what are we gonna be requiring for a bond? Or surety, financial surety, to.
The cost of decommissioning.
Right.
And in a format that 20, 25 years hence, it's gonna be really obvious to everyone coming along, and to all the other people in the meantime, like, no, this is unitary. You can't release part of it. It waits, it waits until, the whole thing is checked off, there are no partial releases.
So in your experience, when it comes to bonding, again, learning curve. Since we're not talking 1 or 2 years down the road, when the rate of inflation, granted, is ridiculous, but it could be even more ridiculous, we're talking 20, 25 years down the road. What could be a let's say $50,000 decommission now or even in a year or two, could end up being $100,000 decommission in 20, 25 years. How do you calculate out what the best number, I mean, we don't wanna say, we just want $500,000 just for, the fun of it, just cause you can. We wanna be realistic.
Well, the surety companies.
They figure that all out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's just like an insurance company, you get a homeowner's policy and you take out an actual replacement value.
And they have a
They
formula
have
to
to,
calculate
they
that.
have to comply with that regardless of, cost of inflation, whatever, that's the way it works.
So the end, we're relying on the
Yeah,
professional to do it
exactly.
much better than I could.
Well, it's an easy way to do it, what's the interest rate in a 30-year bond?
Mhm.
That tells you the,
That's
that's it, but that tells you the anticipated inflation for that time.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah, that, now you're speaking that lawyer talk, just in the financial, and I don't do that, that's all my husband. I just don't, I just don't care. Just tell me what to write the check for.
A large amount of money.
No,
So, I mean, so I have the authorization to go forward and schedule this meeting with Tom Corbett and start on this process. And with a report back, the next meeting, I promise to have more progress made. I have all the documentation.
Well, you better, mister.
Guidance. What's that?
You better agree that. Like.
Yeah.
I like it, yes.
Meeting stuff out.
We gotta vote on.
No, just
Say
teasing.
yes, right?
you would just say, yeah, we don't have about it.
Yeah. Okay.
By all means, kind sir.
100%.
Yeah, our
Yes.
conscience says in you.
And then you can reach out to Tom about whatever his next steps are for
Right.
his A and R that, is
Oh, that-
logically interesting.
That's correct. He's still trying to figure out what to do with that.
Wait, which one was that?
So it's like, well, the A and R lot we did, that was only a legitimate
Oh,
A and R.
right.
because it was in the
You can go
But
there.
now it's been divided, how do we build houses on it? Right. Well, it's like you can't, because they're not conforming lots, and, you can't create non-conforming lots. So, okay, is there anything else anyone would like to discuss under new business? Failing that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions? Hearing none, Regina,
Yes.
Kendra?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Mike? Frank, yes, so we are adjourned.